All
Hello,
right.
fellow askers. I'm here with a great guy whom I have interest on interviewing because there was this day that I was browsing so browsing my Facebook account and I saw a post on a Facebook group about defenders of the Catholic Church and saw his picture with his book that he was now a Catholic. So I reached out to him and so here we are having this interview. So before we start, allow me to may we allow or may we let him to introduce himself. Sir Michael, are you a convert or are you a revert to the Catholic Church?
I'm actually a convert. I used to be a Protestant. I worked as a Protestant minister and missionary, and then back in 2010, I was confirmed into the Catholic Church.
Sir Michael, what made you interested in going back into the Catholic Church? Because, for some Protestants who were coming back to the Catholic Church, there are reasons, perhaps about the Pope, perhaps about Mary, or other areas or other dogmas. How about you? What particular aspect or tenets of the Catholic Church made you interested or drove you to go back?
Well, it was a program that I saw on TV through the EWTN network, Eternal World Network, down in Alabama, and there was a program called "The Journey Home" by Marcus Grody. I started watching that channel, and there was a lot of different Protestants that he was into that became Catholic. And growing up and becoming a pastor, I thought I knew the Bible as well as I did. I went to Bible college and everything. And I decided for myself to see whether the claims that the Catholic Church had were true or not. And I saw these other Protestants becoming a Catholic, and I figured, well, I'll just study the Bible myself to see what's true or not. And so that led me into the church, was basically going back and relearning the Bible and actually reading books and doctrinal websites and apologia from the Catholic point of view. And that's kind of what led me into the church.
I think that's great, sir, because some Protestants might not, or I think also the same with Catholics. Sometimes we don't want, or because we claim that we are right, we don't try to give a chance to the other areas or to the opposite side to make their case. And so for you, I think that's a great opportunity, sir, or a great move that you wanted to, or you tried to reach out, or you tried to listen to the other or to the opposite side. When did you start doubting Protestantism, sir? Or how long was the journey home? Or quoting from the title of the program of Sir Michael, by Marcus Grody.
Right. It started back in 2007, 2008, and I entered in church 2010, Easter 2010. So there was a good 2 or 3 years there of studying. Like I said, I had to go back. I bought a Catechism of the Catholic Church book. That was the first book I got. And then from there, I got a book by Father Oscar Lukfar about the Bible as a Catholic Bible. And it just from there, other different books and so forth. And so it took a good couple of years to really go back, restudy, and relearn different things and pray about it. Catholicism has come to know as a very practical, rational faith, and very intellectual. the church that I grew up in was not necessarily emotional or charismatic or anything like that. But there was a lot of Bible reading, but that was it. We didn't study other books or anything like that. It was just always the Bible. And since coming into church, I have read other different books regarding the Catholic faith and different philosophies, so to speak, within the church and all. So yeah, basically, when I looked at the church and studying it, I took five different lessons and put them together. I started off with the Didacano books to
Mhm.
see whether they are supposed to be in the Bible or not. And then I looked at the authority of the church, whether it's just the Bible only or if it's church plus tradition. And then from there, I looked at baptism and communion. And finally, I looked at Mary. And those were the five different teachings I looked at and studied.
Did you feature those five aspects or five parts in your book, the Bible
Yes,
Made Me Catholic?
yes, I did. The book itself is my journey into the Catholic faith. And so there's like nine different chapters in it, but five of the chapters deal with the doctrines of the church, with baptism, the Bible, communion, Mary, and so forth. And so I break those down as this is what I learned and this is what I came to the conclusion to. And like I was saying earlier, um, I always thought that the Protestant side always had the logical point of views, but studying the Eucharist, communion over again, when John chapter 6, and really understanding, is Jesus speaking symbolic here or literally? I always thought it was symbolic. And then Paul in First Corinthians dealing with the whole communion issue in the church in Corinth. Um, I'll go ahead and say that my the epiphany that I finally had was looking at First Corinthians 11, 28, 29, dealing with the Eucharist. And I grew up reading the New International Version Bible. And within that translation, it talks about, do you not see and understand that this is the body and blood of Christ? Now, the other translations just have discern the body. But in the NIV, it was discern the body and blood of Christ. And even though it's not really in the original Greek, but that was a really shocking moment for me. It went from my head down to my heart. And am I really even participating and partaking of communion correctly? You know? Yeah.
How was the how did you take, or you said that it was symbolic for you, or in the church where you belong? Did you have this communion? Did it happen once a month?
Yeah. The church that I actually grew up with is known as the Christian Churches, Churches of Christ. And we had communion every Sunday. We were taught that it was just a memorial only. It was a special time. But yeah, that's how it was. When we had our worship service, we would have hymns, prayers. We would have like a responsive reading. And then there would come time for the communion time. One of the elders would get up and give a little devotion, and then the communion would be passed out. People stayed in their seats, and we participated at the bread and then the grape juice, and then the trays were taken back up, and there was a prayer, and that was it. Uh, we had a song or something or a momentary break, and then the pastor got up and preached. So, and coming into the Catholic Church, I noticed in one of your videos earlier, you were talking about the Eucharist and just the bread and so forth. The Catholic church that I go to now and that we're a part of is the Precious Blood community. And so when we participate in the Eucharist, we still have both the bread and the wine.
Mm-mm. The doubles, they I think they call it the double species or the double
Yes.
elements.
Yes.
Hopefully, we can also talk sometime about the Eucharist, on how your understanding about it. But continuing on your conversion, how did your family reacted? Is your family Catholic right now? Were you one as a family in converting?
Hmm.
And how about your friends? How did they react?
Well, growing up in a small town as I did, I have friends that were Catholic, but yeah, our two churches were like on opposite ends of the town, but we went to school together and so forth. Growing up in my church, we weren't necessarily taught per se, but acknowledged that, oh yeah, Catholics worship Mary. You know, they have a bigger Bible than what we do. Um, they don't do communion correctly, blah, 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 blah. So it's more of a state of facts and idea and understanding, you know. Uh, Never really had any anti Catholic sermons or anything like that. But we did have a movie that was put together by a Catholic that became Protestant. I'm trying to remember his name, but he has a ministry now where he did this, and our church saw that movie one time. Growing up, there's Chick Publications, which is very anti-Catholic, and so I just grew up with that kind of atmosphere. Like I said, I have friends that were Catholic, but you know, we never really discussed religion or philosophy or anything like that. It was
Mm.
just after coming into the faith, and I started telling people, you know, well, I'm Catholic now. They would look at me and go, why? You know, we never thought of you becoming Catholic, you know. Um, the people that I grew up with in the congregation, in the church, when they found out that I was Catholic, you know, you're Catholic now? Why? You know, I'll pray for you, you know, that kind of attitude and so forth. I have two older sisters. Both of my parents are gone now. My dad died in 1993, and my mom passed away in 2007. My oldest sister, when she found out that I was going through RCIA, and that was also part of my training and going through was the RCIA. When she found out I was doing that, she said, "Mom and Dad are rolling around in their graves," and it was that blunt. Uh, my wife and our children. Uh, my wife was previously Catholic in El Salvador, and when I got back involved in the Catholic Church, she got we started back and going into church now, and she works at the church where we're members of now. So, um, but yeah, it's just the past 10 years, I've had different people ask me and tell me, why did you become Catholic? So I got tired of talking about it, so I figured I'll just write a book and go from there. So,
But at least some of your friends didn't. It's like disown you, or
not
let's
really,
say
no.
that.
But I do have to say, yeah, my family and my friendship has changed. You know, I used to know this group of people, but since coming to church, now I know another group of people, and you know, it's just as good. So,
I think that's the reason, if I'm not mistaken, that's the reason why Marcus Grodi, and I think he also was with Scott Hahn in having that radio program or TV program, the journey home. That
mhm.
hopefully we have this community that will help other people going back into the Catholic Church, because in converting, sometimes other or the relatives of the convert don't accept them already.
Mhm.
Now, you have said earlier that at least in the church that you grew up, they didn't teach you really about or having bad sermons about the Catholic Church or destroying them, teaching them about lies about or talking lies about them.
Hmm.
And I think that's a good thing also that we have to, although we have to make a case about our faith, at least we don't destroy the image in a bad way. Of course,
Hmm.
we have to make our case, but at least we respect what other people believe.
Hmm.
Although we might end up offending them, but at least we do it in a respectful way. Now, I think this is one thing that I really have to ask you. Why why Catholicism instead of Eastern Orthodox?
Oh, why Catholicism and not Orthodox? Simple question. There's no Orthodox churches where I live here in St. Joe. The nearest Orthodox church is about 70 miles away down in Kansas City, Missouri. When I was going through the RCIA, a friend from Germany, I believe, sent me a book about the Orthodox faith, and I read it and I looked at it, and I started comparing the two between the Catholic and Orthodox faith. But as I got more into learning more about the Catholic faith, the whole issue with the Nicene Creed, basically that
Mhm.
was the reason why the church split back in 1072 was over that. The Orthodox Church doesn't necessarily recognize the primacy of Rome with the Pope. Um, and then a lot of the Orthodox style and liturgical sense still seems very original. I'll just put it that way. I don't want to necessarily use the word old fashioned or out of touch, but they have stayed along with the Greek language and style of things. And just growing up in the states where we have this more Catholic understanding of things, albeit Roman Catholic, than there is the Greek Orthodox. And in studying the Orthodox, there's also the different branches. You got the Russian Orthodox, you got the Greek Orthodox, you got the Coptic Orthodox, and so forth. And within the Catholic Church, we have the different rites. We have the Ukrainian Catholic, the Latin Rite, and Syrian Rite, and so forth. And all these rites still fall under the one authority of the church. And whereas the Orthodox is a little bit more different from that.
Another thing is that did you encounter you had said that there you had many friends who were Catholic. Did the didn't those didn't their characteristics dismay you? Or were you not dismayed by the bad Catholics, the issues that are going on right now? Or I mean before, sometimes do you think that Protestants will convert more even if there are many bad Catholics?
With some of the Catholics that I knew growing up, um, I believed, and this came from my father as well, but I was never really used to drinking alcohol. Um, Alcohol was a sin, so to speak. And there were a lot of the Catholic people that I knew that, they went to the beer parties and so forth. I never really did. I had a very good teacher in college who was Catholic, and it was interesting trying to talk with her about her faith and the Bible. She really didn't know a whole lot, but she always had a cup of wine with her. Um, and that's just the attitude I guess we have here in the States. Even now, as a Catholic, I don't necessarily participate in wine parties, things like that. But I know of a lot of my Catholic friends. We all have some Chardonnays and wines every once in a while. So that was a big change for me. So just seeing that, growing up with that kind of attitude and so forth, that was one of the hindrances that I have. Um, Back to your question about Protestants converting within the Catholic faith. The Catholic faith I've learned has is become more rational and intellectual. And so, growing up, I did my church that I grew up in wasn't overly emotional or charismatic or Pentecostal, um, but we were still logical and following the Bible. For a Protestant move in the Catholic faith, they're going to have to let down some barriers, some walls, so some judgmental attitudes. Like me, I always thought I was right and I knew the Bible right, but it took the grace, the work of the Holy Spirit in me to learn more and understand deeper the teachings of the church. And so for Catholics that leave the church and go out for Protestant worship and so forth, and then to come back, I think you will see and understand the difference a little bit better. Um, I don't know about where you're at in the Philippines, but we have a lot of people up here in the States where they're not really taught the Bible per se. They've got study guides, and the people that try to teach the faith um, don't really know what to do with the Bible. And so when a Catholic goes from the Mass to a Protestant church where people are carrying the Bibles, they have out the Bibles, reading the scriptures and so forth, it really is a difference. Now, if you look at our Mass, it is full of scripture. All right, it is full of the readings, but it is just a different way of looking and understanding the Bible and the way scriptures is used. Well, now, even with today's technology, I have a Bible sitting here on my desk, but more often than not, I pull out my cell phone and I use the apps on my cell phone. So I have the Bible on my cell phone now instead of using the book right here. So,
Yeah, I think that's true. I was talking, I think around May. I talked to a Catholic convert also, who was from, who also was from is from the Philippines, and one thing I told him, you are very lucky because you're a Protestant before, and I know that while you were still young, you were really taught about reading the Bible, memorizing some verses. I think it was Steve Ray who said that their parents rewarded them every time they memorized a verse. So
mm,
while they are still young, it's inculcated in their minds that they have to read the Bible, they have to memorize. And when perhaps in some Catholic families, it's also taught. However, the difference is that, as one, I think it's also Steve Ray said that they really have to mention the chapter, I mean, the book, the chapter, and the verse. While for us, we'll just say, "For God so loved the world." But for them, for Protestants, they will teach their children. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world." And so
mhm,
it's really easy for them
mhm,
to bring out from what they have memorized. And I think that's what Catholics are missing, that we are really not taught within the family to read the Bible. Now that the Bibles are downloadable or are available in phones, smartphones right now, I think it's not still emphasized that we have to read it, that we have to listen to it.
mhm,
Now, among the five problems or five obstacles that you had said,
mhm.
what do you think is the main obstacle for Protestants in converting to Catholicism?
The main obstacles for Protestants becoming Catholic,
Yes.
it kind of depends upon the person, but I believe basically there might be two instead of just one. I would say basically the authority of the church and Mary. Uh, we all have different things about baptism and communion, but I think what is really hardest for a Protestant looking at the Catholic faith and coming into the faith of the Catholic Church would be either the worship of Mary or the church authority. A lot of Protestants have grown up and recognized the Bible only as the authority. And with the church, it is you've got the Bible, you've got the tradition, and you got the magisterium. It's like that three-legged stool that we talk about. Um, and whereas with the Protestant church, it is just the one column, the Bible only. So really, church authority, and then possibly dealing with Mary.
Last thing before we end this interview, sir, what would be your message to Protestants thinking about going back to Catholic Church, going back or converting to the Catholic Church? And what would be your message for Catholics who are doubting the Catholic faith and thinking of going to Protestantism or other religions?
The reason why I'm getting into the apologetics ministry, so to speak, is as the comment that I have in the book. There's a lot of people that believe and know and understand the Bible stories. They just don't understand the apologetics of the faith. And that is what we need is more understanding and comprehension of why we believe what we believe. We can have a lot of the intellectual stuff, but again, it's up to each individual person. All right. I have known here in the last 10 years of the kids growing up in our church and in the parish. We have a Catholic school next door, and I've seen a lot of these kids. They get baptized, they get the confirmation. Then once they become adults, they disappear. Why? I really don't know. I can't say the parents didn't teach them good enough. I can't say the church didn't teach them good enough. But it's a matter of internalizing the faith and really accepting that. I guess that was easy for me because, well, I guess I just had God's calling on my life. Like I said, I grew up and I became a pastor, a preacher, a missionary, a Christian education director. I was always fascinated with the Bible. And I always wanted to read and study it and learn as much as I can. So that was me. So it was easy for me to read and learn and study the Bible. A lot of the other people, they have other passions, other thinking. And but with the faith, if you don't really internalize it, you can know a lot of stuff up here, but then what about down here in the heart? So I hope that I answered that question with that. So
Yeah, yeah. So thank you very much, Sir Michael, for accepting this interview. You know, the reason I'm interested is that many Protestants are going back or are converting to the Catholic Church.
yes,
There was even this pastor, I think, from Ireland who converted. You know, whether they are famous or not, it doesn't matter. But the question is, why are they converting? So I'm interested in knowing their stories. You know, for example, Candace Owens, Tammy Peterson. Hopefully, Jordan Peterson will convert sometime or someday. And others who have converted. And so I thank you for sharing your story. And I want to show to the audience the book of Sir Michael. It's entitled The Bible Made Me Catholic.
I got a copy right here. Uh, You can go to Amazon.com and look up the Bible Maybe Catholic. Um, Yep, there it is right there. It is both in paperback and ebook, electronic book format. Um, Here in this next couple of weeks, I'm going to be lowering down the price. But yeah, that's it right there. And thank you. I
Hopefully,
really appreciate this moment. It's been very interesting talking with you. I'm glad that we were able to connect and get together. And, God bless you and the ministry that you're doing. That's what we really need to do is we need to have more of a network going. As you and I know, with some of the Facebook groups that we're in, there's still a lot of hostile, anti-Catholic, uh, derogatory things that are being said. And I go in there and I try to gently teach and reach the people. As it says here in First Peter chapter 3, verse 15, but sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. Always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you for a reason for your hope. But do it with gentleness and reverence, keeping your conscience clear so that when you are maligned, those who defame your good conduct in Christ may themselves be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that be the will of God, than for doing evil. And that's what we really need to practice. Even amongst us Catholics, we get tired of all the Protestants, rattling us, and then sometimes we come back with a negative comment. No, we can't be doing that. We've got to stay positive and learn to reach out and work together.
yeah, this it also this thing also drove me to have this channel. Although it may be simple, I only have few subscribers. It's really really simple, but I told myself it's better than having nothing at all.
Yeah.
I also experienced that, in the pages or Facebook groups that we are in, there are pictures or even videos that were edited to for the destruction of the Catholic Church. And we have to, as you have said, we have to pray for them. We have to positively respond to them. And thank you also for coming into this interview. And for those who are watching, please buy the book, The Bible Made Me Catholic. I'll also put the link in the description below, and the YouTube channel of Sir Michael. And you had uploaded your first uh, Bible study.
Mhm.
You had your first Bible study already in there. So
Yes. My YouTube channel I'm trying to use has different Bible studies and different chats for things. I have a Facebook page as well, and then I have my book. So yeah, but thank you.
So for the audience, again, we'll put the links for the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and the link for the book of Sir Michael. So again, thank you very much, Sir Michael.
Thank
Fellow
you.
Oscars, thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you for everybody for watching.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.